Okay, I'm going to do markup based on selling price. And I like to use a format that is a little bit more tabular and also mimics a an income statement. In other words, an income statement usually has on the top level is sales revenues or just sales. And then you subtract out costs to get to what's called a gross profit or a gross margin. So you'll have a sell price um, on an individual unit level. We'll look at it in a similar way. So at the top, we have what's called the selling price. So this is the price that we have fixed to an item that we're going to sell to our customers. What our customers never know is what our cost is. And our cost is something that we experience before we actually sell a product. So if I'm selling hot dogs, I buy a hot dog for $1 and I want to sell it for $2, then we know that my markup or my gross margin is $1. So this is the way I set this up. I kind of like to draw a little grid. You can get to where you do this with less effort. I just want to do it slowly at this point to demonstrate just how I do this. So this is always going to be the dollars part of the equation. Sales minus costs equals the markup. And then, of course, this is going to be my calculation area. This is going to help me to visualize what the calculation is to calculate either the dollar amount or the percentage that we're wanting to achieve. Now, since we're using our selling price as the base, it is set at 100%. Okay. And then it's just a matter of a couple more pieces of information that they have to give you. And in a common way, we usually know what our selling price is in this case. We want to determine what our markup is going to be. So let's make our selling price here, to make it real simple, $10. So whatever item we have, we're selling it for $10. It is our base. And we want to achieve a 40% markup. So how do we assign a markup based on this amount of information? Well, the first thing that I do is I set up the problem. I complete the percentage column first because they're going to give you, oftentimes you're going to know what you want for a markup. You're going to know what the price is and that's going to be 100%. So if I want a 40% markup on my price, that means my cost is 60%. So 100% of the sales price less 60% of the cost, or if you break this down to $1, it's $1 sales price, 60 cents on each dollar of sales gives you a 40% profit or markup on each item sold. So you can see with these percentages, very easy. So that's the first thing that I do. And now it's essential that you read the question, because the question will be, it'll ask you, well, what is the cost then based on a markup, knowing what your sales price is and your markup of 40%? Or it'll ask you, well, what is the dollar markup given a 40% markup on sales price? So they gave us this information. They have to. Then we had to determine what our cost was. Now, so this is all it's ever going to ask. It's either going to ask you what these percentages are here, which one of these are, or which one of these are. So that's the math behind it. Now let's look at the calculation of it. So if $10 selling price is 100%, well, then we can say that 10 divided by 10, which is the base price, is 100%. So if we don't know cost, then we got cost divided by 10 equals 60%. So you can kind of go like this, make a little equal sign there. A lot of this is mathematical, so once you've got one thing, you've got them all. Here will be X, the markup that we don't know, divided by the base sales price of $10. Remember, we're marking up based on sales price, so the sales price is the base. So let's solve for, let's say the question asks you, what is the dollar cost if you're going to mark up your product 40%? Well, let's pull this out. We go X divided by 10, and you've learned how to solve for an unknown. This is just simply solving for an unknown, equals 60%. Further, we just simply get X on one side by itself equals 0.60. Since we're dividing over here, we're going to multiply over here times 10. And yep, that equals $6. And now you could do that same calculation right here for 40%, or you can just simply take 10 minus 6 equals 4. And any question that you might have about this product can now be manipulated. And if you have this set up in a spreadsheet, you could do a what if or sensitivity analysis and say, well, what if I can drive down my costs? What happens to my markup? Well, if I drive down my costs, keeping my sales price steady, then my markup goes up. So I can mark up more as I drive my costs down. If I want to just keep calculating my markup and say, well, I want a 100% markup or a 50% markup, well, you're going to have to find a way to get your costs down in order to satisfy that. Okay, so let's work a problem. Okay, so this first problem, let me make this a little clearer for you. Make it a little larger. All right, and let's move this one down to the next page. We'll do that one another time, or we might even do that next just to do this. Okay, so the first thing that I look at is what's the question? Yep, we're going to do markup based on selling price. So we're going to set this up this way, cost, markup. Now again, I like to do this. And I'll put my dollar amounts over here closest to the formula. And it says our selling price is $69. And that's going to represent 100%. Remember, when we're doing on selling price, the base is going to be 100%, 100% of the selling price. And it says that our markup is going to be 60%. So the first thing I do, I've got my calculation set up. I know now that my cost is going to be 40%. And let's go ahead and fill that in and let's read the question. What does it want us to calculate? So what is the cost of the sweater to Sears? So here it is. They want this dollar value cost, and that's all they want. So if we use that formula that we just looked at and learned, we know that 69 divided by the 69, which is the base, is 100%. And here we want to go X divided by 69 is going to equal 40%. So we drop down, calculate X divided by 69 equals 40 cents or 40%. And then we know that X by itself equals 40% of 69. And that makes our X write it in here, $27.60. Now, if they asked what markup is, you could calculate that just by going 69 minus $27.60. And or you could do the calculation right here. Let's do another one. What happens after you do a few is it just gets easier and easier. Okay, again, let's just, without even reading the question, let's go sales price, cost, markup. And let's draw our lines. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room than we had last time. We know our sales price is 100% because it's based on the selling price. Let's find out what the selling price is. Sells a TV for $199.95. Okay. We may have to do a little bit of calculating here. We're using our calculator and rounding as necessary. It says round to the nearest percent. Check your answer. And there you go. Just round to the nearest cent, just like you would anything. And then what else information? We got to get some information here in order to get started. Percent markup based on selling price. Oh, look, it gives you the cost of 140.50. This is the one I love because it's so easy. So what do I do based on this? It wants to know what was the Radio Shack's percent of markup. So it wants this number right here. So what we need to do is figure out what our percent is here. So we know our base. Let's do this. Let's just fill the whole thing out. We don't necessarily need to do this as we get faster. Equals 100%. And here we just pull this number in because we know it now. 140.50 divided by 199.95. And that is our cost percentage. Once we have that, we just subtract. So let's take 140 and 199.95 and divide that. And we get 70.2 or 70.3. It says round to the nearest percent. So we're just going to go 70%. And that makes our markup 30%. Again, that's the answer. We're done. We don't need to calculate anymore. But if we wanted to, we could calculate our dollar markup by taking the 199.5 and subtract out the cost. And we get 59.45. And we are done.